If you guys do me some favors, if you guys can try to move up as much as possible. There's going to be a lot of people walking in as the class goes, and so it would be great if you can guys give the people the space in the back so they don't make a big noise.
Okay, it's fine.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Hi guys, welcome everybody. Welcome tonight to the Lighthouse Project. If I can have your help on this, if everybody can please put on their cell phones on vibrate or turn off, really would appreciate it. And we would like to thank tonight's very generous sponsors. Tonight's nightly sponsors, Anonymous, in honor of her 18th wedding anniversary on Yud Elul, Yoram ben Rachel and Rivka bat Sarah, and for the children, Michael Abner ben Rivka, Yehoshua ben Rivka, and Chava bat Rivka.
Amen.
Anonymous, in memory of her father, Moshe Daba ben Gilson, Zichrono Lebracha, may he have an aliyah, and for the good luck and success of their son, Moshe ben Gila.
Amen.
Lighthouse is also weekly in honor of the Refuah Shlema of Menachem Mendel ben Sarbatia and Devorah Fega bat Reisel should have a complete Refuah Shlema.
Amen.
Andrea Amadeo, in honor of all of my single girlfriends finding their soulmates soon. May Hashem
Amen.
bless them with a happy marriage.
Amen.
When that happens. Anonymous, in memory of Edward David Shaul Zichrono Lebracha, and for the Refuah Shlema of Shaul ben Berta and Lior Gabai ben Michal. May Hashem bless Gedalia with health and strength.
Amen.
You don't need patience anymore, you're good. Anonymous, in honor of Frida bat Leah, receiving abundant da'at and thinking positive always.
Amen.
Anonymous for the Refuah Shlema of Yitzchak ben Bela and Shoshana Bela bat Dvorah Rachel.
Amen.
Anonymous for the success of Yocheved bat Malka Rivka and in memory of Zilpa bat Eliyahu Zichrono Lebracha Shad Aliyah.
Amen.
Ayala Gross, in honor of Ayala bat Sarah for her parnasa, health, and bitachon, Chaim Shmuel Yaakov ben Ayala for joy, da'at, and becoming a Talmid Chacham, and Adina bat Sarah for her health, parnasa, and getting married this year.
Amen.
Anonymous for the Shalom Bayit, Bilana bat Rachel, and David ben Yocheved.
Amen.
Anonymous, in honor of Sarah bat Rivka to find her soulmate, for the successful Shalom Bayit of Eliyahu ben Clara, and for Sicha bat Behira to have the honor of bearing children.
Amen.
Anonymous, in memory of Karmid Nechama Leah bat Aharon Zichron Lebracha, for the success of Gedalia and his family.
Amen.
And to bless him like Abraham Avinu. B'kol mikol kol.
Amen.
Bracha Gandijan, in honor of Bracha bat Rachel for parnasa and good health.
Amen.
Anonymous, in memory of Eliezer ben Chaim Avraham Yehuda and Bracha Esther bat Tova Gita Zichrono Lebracha.
Amen.
Finally, the last two sponsors, David Pomerantz, in honor of David ben Golda and Nechama Ita Bataya, his wife, and actualizing their soul's potential together.
Amen.
Anonymous, in memory of Nadav Chai ben Yehuda Zichrono Lebracha, in honor of Roi ben Yafa and Michael ben Adal Malka to have success, and Parnas in all their endeavors, and for the Refuah Shlema, Rafael Moshe ben Shulamit. Thank you so much.
Today's class is also, we have a corporate sponsor. We have my favorite cookie. It's called Nature's Cocktail. Honestly, my favorite cookie. Everybody's got to try it. It's by Jenny Hayes. Nature's Cocktail. Amazing, amazing cookies. Made out of coconuts, organic, etc. Just like we say in the classes.
Thank you.
Okay, we have a great class tonight. Also, I want to thank Alex Barth for sponsoring the class in Queens. We had an amazing class in Queens and an amazing class in Toronto. We're back in Miami. Tonight's class is going to be very, very powerful. It's usually when I talk about Shalom Bayit, when I talk about relationships, right after the class I get tested. So I'm setting myself up for an audit already. which is, it always happens that way. Just to make sure, whatever you're saying, so this class, I'm not teaching you, I'm learning with you. This is the official disclaimer I have on this one. Can everybody hear or no? Everybody can hear perfectly. The purpose of this class is not to go up to your spouse or not to go up to your future partner and say, you see, this is the reason why we have problems. That's not the reason why. Like, don't get Moroccan on that. Just, it's not to say, it's to learn. We don't want to make we want to make adjustments. Remember, because if you're going to say the same thing, what happens? People will only change when they feel good about themselves. So don't say, you're the reason why we're in this situation. Because I could see already this happening and me getting the phone calls. Look what you told me, look what you said, etc. Our class today is going to be from a few books. We're going to learn from Likutei Moharan, lesson 9, lesson 7, lesson 69. We're also going to do from the Shivra Pinchas, and we're also going to do from the Garden of Wisdom. So it's very Breslov based today. It's very important. I don't know if anybody, you guys watch football or etc. You have to know who's playing offense and who's playing defense. There's an offensive coordinator and there's a defensive coordinator. If the defensive coordinator would be playing offense and the offensive coordinator would play defense, you would have a major mess up. So we have to know what the Torah is and what our role is. The stats are, if couples that are able to keep nidah, couples that are Orthodox, they have a 75% better chance of not getting divorced. So if we follow the rules, at the end of the day, we're going to have long-term prosperity, long-term peace. But if we don't have the Torah, we don't have a guide, then obviously you become a statistic. 60%, I think, divorce rate. I don't know what it is. 60. I don't know what the number is, but it's super high. It's super high. There's more divorce attorneys on every corner. There's a reason why. Okay? So let's start first. We want to realize that we all have tikkunim in this world. We're not here to just enjoy. We're here to rectify. Very important concept. A man's role. Oh, by the way, I also want to thank Michael Ben Melech. I forgot to thank you, Michael. I want to thank Michael Ben Melech. I haven't thanked him. I was going to thank him in Queens. I completely forgot. Just so you know, Michael Ben Melech, he's the one that convinced me to come here and do these classes. He always wanted me to come do it. I said, Michael, leave me alone. I'm going to the Heat game. Leave me alone. And he pushed and he pushed. So honestly, a big salute for Michael Ben Melech for all these classes. I really got to give him a heads up before we start the class. May Hashem give you shalom bayit, Michael. Okay, so we have to know what the role is, what the major rectification for the man and what the rectification for the woman. This is very important before you get married, so you know what's my role and what's your role, what do I need to fix, and what does she need to fix. So we know man's role obviously is his eyes. To keep his eyes on his own plate. Woman's tikkun, she's rooted in honor. That means she always wants to be right. At any expense. Anytime. Everybody good? Everybody good? Okay. Okay, good. So the woman's role is rooted in kavod. So what happens? If a man doesn't know that, then he's going to argue with his wife all the time. He's going to lose 100% of the time. She is rooted in kavod. Anytime her husband doesn't stand up for her, everything else is a result of, you're not giving me kavod. So once there's no kavod, there's no respect, the rest is history. The rest, you're just dealing with symptoms of a big rooted issue. So that's the woman's tikkun. She's rooted in kavod. So our job is always to make our wives number one at every expense. Whatever it is. Even, that's why the Torah clearly says, leave your mother's house and cling to your wife. So when you see people comparing, you don't cook like my mother, my mother's house is much cleaner than yours. This is the beginning of shchita. This is the beginning because you're going against her honor. What happens when you go against her honor? She naturally will shrink her light, and you will be affected by that, because parnasa comes on her account. So at the end of the day, like I told you, everything is due to dat. If we don't have the proper dat, if we don't have the proper knowledge, if we don't have the proper information, what happens? We suffer. That's why the Zohar says our job in this world is to get to know Hashem, get to know the rules. Why is peace so important? Because Hashem was ready to erase His name for the sake of peace. So we have to realize the key to our success is in humility and self-control. I would say a man's job today is self-confidence and self-control. If there's no self-confidence and self-control, there's going to be a big price to be paid. So we need to understand that. And this is why it says the Hebrew word for built is called vayiven, which comes from the word bina. So a man is rooted in chachma, a man is rooted in wisdom, a woman is rooted in intuition. She has intuition, more intuition than a man. Just if you have the intelligence and you don't have the intuition, what happens? Your intuition can lead you. So if the guy says, you know what do you know about this business? What do you know about this? You have no idea. She has a much more intuition about who you're dealing business with, your friends, than you do. Because the guy's looking at this chachma. She's looking at it, she was given the intuition. So what happens? Sometimes they don't listen to their wives. The wife tells you stay away. You lose money with the guy, and next thing you know, what does she say? I told you so. And this is where stuff gets really, really messy. So we want to know. We have to understand. It's not that they don't know your industry. My wife has saved me many times from the wrong people. I never saw it in a million years, but she was able to pick it up. How? Because she's gifted with that. I'm not. You have to know what you're gifted at, and you have to know what you're not at. That's the key. Because if you're not using the right players in the game, you're going to lose. You're going to lose. So it's very important that we know. We have this knowledge. And he says here, a woman builds her home, a man's understanding that his intelligence and wisdom are worthless without the proper intuition. We can have great business plans. It looks good on paper, but the guy's a thief. Maybe I wouldn't have saw that. But she could pick that up. So that's why it's so important for a guy to get married to the right girl, because what happens is the right girl will give him the intuition and help him grow. Otherwise, he's married to a girl who's not supposed to be for him. And what happens? He never gets that intuition. He never gets that help. He never gets that gut feeling that we need. Man also has intuition, but she has a much deeper intuition. So what happens is the patterns happens is when a person doesn't take his wife's or doesn't take his partner's opinion and throws it out, and they don't respect them. And then this is where all the problems, you can have financial problems, you can have relationship problems, and all you have to do is be open-minded. So it's very, very important that we get that. And again, Baruch Hashem, I'm successful, but I always realize I have something that she doesn't have. I have to bend down. That's what the Gemara says. If your wife is short, bend down and listen to her. Now, let's get this straight. For a woman also, if her mind is in the past, if her mind is not present, if her mind is not in a spiritual state, then her intent is it's not really working that great either. So the woman's job is the more she works on her emunah, the more she works on her spirituality, then she has a better antenna. Otherwise, if her antenna is comparing her life to other people's lives, what happens? Her antenna is not working because it's got no Wi-Fi signal. So there's a major role for the wife to be present and realize that's her role. So if we get stuck on, for example, if we get stuck on resentment, if we get stuck on negative patterns, then you miss the day. So it's because the woman is rooted in kavod, and she always wants to be right at anybody's expense, what happens is she can get stuck in fighting with her mother-in-law, and she'll miss the signal. She's majoring in minor things all the time. So she also has to say, I need to let it go, because my tikkun is my kavod. Also, Rabbi Rush says very important, that it's very important that we use proper speech. When you tell your mate, this is the best way to say it is, this is not like you. You're much stronger than this. You can get up. We don't want to tell him, you're this, you're that, you're that. That's not good, because that's name calling. We want to encourage by saying, you're not hitting your potential. You should be doing so much better. I have your back. Not, this is who you are, you screwed my whole life up, you never listened to me. That's also not going to help. Because then what happens is the guy says, I can't handle this coach. I need a new coach. So that's also, we have to be careful with our mouth. The guy's tikkun is his eyes, the woman's tikkun is her mouth. Very, very, very important. So again, their job is literally to cling, and our job is to respect her. And we have to, number one thing is we have to honor her. It could be, the first priority has to be her over Torah books, over your in-laws, over your parents, over everything. That's why the Torah says, cling to your wife. So you can't, and I see most of the fights are coming from family. Oh, my mother's custom is this way. You don't let me respect my mother. And at the end of the day, you're ruining a beautiful vessel. You're building a beautiful vessel for no reason. All for honor. So that's one thing that has to go completely. Rabbi Rush is going to say something absolutely beautiful. He says the main tikkun for the wife was that because of the sin, she has 3 mitzvot that she has to keep. Mikvah is one of them. Why does she have to keep the mikvah? Because she tried to separate from man. Because she tried to separate from man, she became an idah. In order to her to get back to man, Rav Nelson says, she has to go into the mikvah. Why? Because the mikvah represents humility. Because she tried to separate, now you're separated from man. So she has to go to the mikvah to go. What happens when a person goes into the mikvah? They humble themselves. They humble themselves, and then they're permitted to man. The second one is candles. Why? Because she distinguished the light. So how does she have to rectify it? By turning on the light. The third one is challah. Why? Because some opinions say that the sin of the dot was wheat. So she has to rectify it by making challah. Everything's rectification. If we understand this whole concept, you're here to rectify. So she's there to do these things to rectify. What does he say here? Our sages teach us by honoring our wives, we merit wealth. Why does the guy merit wealth by honoring his wife? How did they know this? Rabbi Rush says something very beautiful. He says, because you respect your wife and you're not making her a burden, you're helping her with the kids, you're helping your maid out, etc. What happens? You're taking the burden of slavery from her. You're taking the burden of her husband ruling over her because you honor her. The opposite. So what happens? We got cursed with that we're going to make money through the sweat of our brow, through hard work. So what happens is midah keneged midah, measure for measure. Because you took her honor, you made it easier for her. Hashem says, I'm going to make it easier for you in business. So it's an unbelievable thing. Basically, I got to win one battle. I got to win the battle at home. If I win the battle at home, business is easier. If I don't win the battle at home, then I got a problem at home and I got a problem in business because I'm not going to have a head straight. So our job literally is we can resolve so much headaches by being kind and honoring our wives. That's where the blessing came from. Another great source, another by the Rabbi Pinchas Friedman, says something absolutely beautiful. The number one sin that happened with Adam was that as soon as he saw, the man said, the woman who you gave me, it showed ingratitude. Basically, a person's wife could be his ezer kenegdo. She could be good for him, or she could go against him, based on his actions. What does he say here? The woman who you gave me, she gave the tree and I ate. She blamed somebody else. Instead of he blamed his wife instead of saying, I should have led her. I should have been the receiver. I should have been the giver, not the receiver. So what happens? He showed ingratitude to Hashem because Hashem gave her a wife to help him. So what did he do? He says, you know what? You gave me this wife. So that's where his ingratitude. That's why Moshe Rabbeinu, if we can close the door maybe. That's why Moshe Rabbeinu says, they are descendants of an ingrate. Who's the number one ingrate? Adam and Rishon. Because instead of saying, you gave me this wife to help me, he says, you gave me this wife. This is the wife you gave me. It showed ingratitude. So how do we rectify this? When a person doesn't complain about his wife and says, my wife is great, she's helping me. She might be tough, she blitzes all the time, she's getting me out of my comfort zone, she tells me things I don't like, she's not my cheerleader, she's my coach. When he says that, you know what he's saying to God? This is exactly the wife you were supposed to give me, and you gave it to help me. So then what is he doing? He's showing gratitude to God. He's saying, this exact wife that you gave me is actually helping me. And she's giving me, and so what are you doing? You're showing appreciation to God. When you're showing appreciation to God, then you're blessed with wealth. When you're showing an appreciation, God forbid, in gratitude, then what are you telling Hashem? This is the wife you gave me? So what happens? You cut, the ingratitude is the beginning of all problems. So how do we rectify? By thanking Hashem and having peace and honoring our wives. Because why do we have to honor our wives? Because they are the second half of our soul. They're really you. You know, I have 4 kids. There's a lot of stuff out of my comfort zone that I have to do. And I could say I'm very, very busy, but I know, listen, I know this is more important. Because I could be super, super busy and have an angry wife at home, and I got bigger problems because I don't have blessing. Very, very, very important concept. That's the number one thing. For the guys, don't complain about your wives. Say thank you, because when you complain about your wives, you're mimicking what Adam and Rishon did, which is blaming and being unappreciated to God for what He gave you. And then what happens? That ingratitude just leads to other problems. All of a sudden you have a problem in business. All of a sudden you have a problem here. You have a problem here. You have a problem here. Very, very important. Very, very important. Rav Nachman says in lesson 69. So that's lesson 69. He says, what is this concept again about the parnasa comes on account of his wife? We keep on talking about this, that she's holding the key. If you look at the single situation today, what's happening? The guy's afraid to get married. The girl wants a guy already that has money. So sometimes what happens? They don't realize the money comes when they're married. The shefa comes when they're married, when they commit. How do I know? You don't know. You don't know. You have to take a leap of faith. It's called Judaism 101. Leap of faith. You don't know everything. That's when people get married young. They don't ask, how do I know you're going to pass college and get your master's and get into this law firm? They don't know that. They're 19 years old, 20 years old. But they have a simple faith. They believe in the person. But as things get complicated as we get older, oh, he doesn't fit this box, that box, that box, that box, and that box. No, not good for me. See the problem? And you don't understand that the whole parnas is coming from when you get married. It's when you get married, because it comes on behalf of the soul. It's not when you're single. You need to understand that. That's why I try to get guys. You want to fix. You're probably going through the struggles you're going through because you're not committing. And then the guy's going to say, well, how can I get married? I have no money. So again, you have to take a leap of faith. And again, be responsible. Not be a guy numbing life. But you have to be responsible because it comes on account of that. You have to know the rules. You have to know the rules. And this is why in lesson 69, Rav Nachman says, anybody who robs another person's money robs him of his children. The wife is like the tree with the fruits. So what happens? Just like a tree sees that somebody's attacking her husband, right? Somebody's attacking. This guy wants to steal money from this guy. What does the wife do? The wife is a tree. She shrivels up and tries to protect. How does she protect? By telling her husband, don't do business with this guy. He's out to rob you. How does she know that? Because she senses that this guy is going to cause me harm. Understand? And it can affect, God forbid, a person being robbed. It can actually affect person's children. It can affect the person not having children because they were robbed. To that effect, Rav Nachman speaking about. And he's saying this: money comes to him on account of the luminance of her soul. My job in life is to illuminate my wife's soul. How do I illuminate her soul? By giving her compliments, by giving her kavod. Anytime I'm being cheap, stingy, always mimicking, you spend too much, you do this too much, you do this, what are you doing to her soul? You're shrinking it. You're putting fear. So that she can't illuminate and expand her soul, and the person gets affected. I know this sounds very complicated, but you need to understand what's going on behind the scenes. When you don't have emunah, what's the first thing you're going to say? Honey, I had a horrible day at work today. Things are going to be terrible. What do you think you're doing when you tell her that? All of a sudden you're putting tremendous fear into her. Her soul all of a sudden shrinks. So it's very important that the man is able to be responsible and not let his emotions out on his wife. To have self-control. You have to have self-control. Because not only are you going to go down, you're going to take the whole boat down with you. And then your mother-in-law is going to come in for CPR. And now you got a real problem. Understand? That's the problem. Why? Because the woman represents the Nefesh. The Nefesh is where the money comes from. The Nefesh is where money comes from. The Nefesh is the female part of the soul, etc. Therefore, the wealth comes from the female aspect of her soul, which is the Nefesh. Now you're going to tell me, a lot of people are single, they have plenty of money. So what Rav Nachman's talking about here is he's talking about people being satisfied with their money, being fulfilled in life. When a person's fulfilled, he has kids, he's happy. Otherwise, okay, we hit this goalpost. Okay, move back the goalpost. It's never enough in life, so the person constantly has to move back the goalpost. It's never enough. So they're always chasing, and chasing, which is the opposite of contentment. Which is the opposite. So through having the wife, a person merits this. The Talmud says that when a person is not, God forbid, is not married, he lacks joy, he lacks blessing, and he lacks good. Those are the, God forbid, the curses. And this is why it says whoever lives without a wife lives without a wall. What does wall represent? Wall represents wealth. She's able to hold the front, and the man's job is to listen to her, etc. etc. So that's why it says, honor your wives so you should become wealthy. Because the more I honor my wife, the more and the less fear I put into my wife, the more I illuminate her soul. When she's happy, happy wife, happy life. Where'd you hear that from? Why is it happy wife, happy life? Because when she's happy, what's happening? She's bouncing back her light. Unhappy wife, dopamine addictions. Shopping every day. Shop this every day. That every day. Because there's no she's not getting fulfilled. So where's she's going to get the happiness? She's going to get it from dopamine. And this is why each man enters this world with his prospective spouse, the money he's destined to have, and the number of fruits and children he will have. But he has to get married. He has to commit. And he has to take responsibility. That's what Rav Nachman's saying here. And he's also saying here that why we get married specifically with money? Because through money, because she's the aspect of the Nefesh, the wife, when a person gives her money to commit, and she gives her the ring, she's actually completing her life. So it is normal for a woman to want money because that's her soul is rooted in. It's not that she's a gold digger. She wants money because that's her soul needs that. It's a completion of life. That's why they have to commit. So the guy can't be lazy and also say, you know what, you have enough. That's not what the answer is. The answer is a person should always want to become a giver. And he's saying here, therefore, that's why when a person does kiddushim, he mekadeshes her. Through business activity and through business, what does he do? He takes her out of the klipa of all the negative forces. So now we know that if a person, the reason why a person sometimes is going through tough times in business is because what happens, again, whenever we worry, whenever we have anxiety, whenever we have any of these states, what are we doing? We're blocking the financial channels that are coming down. So what do we need to do to rectify it? We have to give charity. Because when you give charity, you unblock it. Why charity? Because charity is the opposite. If I'm worried when I'm giving charity, what am I doing? I'm trusting in God. I don't see the results right away when I give charity. But when I give charity, I'm actually doing the opposite of taking and worrying. That's why anytime we're in a rut, we should automatically give charity, because charity is the opposite of fear and anxiety. It's what? Trusting. I trust in God. I trust in God so much that I'm giving charity. So that's very important. So anytime that our sage says, if a man sees that his livelihood is meager, let him turn to charity. Because what happens is his activities probably prohibited his livelihood from coming to him. Very, very important. That's lesson 69. So remember, he also says, another way, God forbid, that a person can steal money is by coveting. Through a glance itself, through coveting another person's possessions, that can also is a form of robbery. Even the sage says, be careful not to look at your neighbor's field because you can cause him damage. What do you mean? I didn't go into his field. I glanced it. I coveted it. Through coveting also, it could be considered stealing because you want something harm to that person. So also by giving charity, we're able to rectify it. So Rav Nachman says here in lesson 7, in the second half, that where does the actual source, where is the source that Hashem blesses a man with money, right? So we're doing this class based on money, so the person understands where to get it from and how he draws the shefa. Rav Nachman says anybody who assumes responsible as a provider to supply livelihood for those dependent upon him, and he must be a man of honor. He must be a man that's confident. He has to have gevura. He has to believe in himself. Not a shlamazel. If a person's a shlamazel, he can't draw that shefa down. What does a shlamazel mean? Shlamazel is a person who's always numbing life. Anytime he has a problem, I need a drink. I can't take it anymore. Or every single time he has I need to go relax. Smoking marijuana all the time. This is considered a shlamazel. Because I can't numb my problems all my life. If I'm numbing my problems, what's going to happen? It's showing I don't have emunah. I can't numb. Numb when a person has food addictions. We know a lot of people that I'm dealing with that have major food addictions. What is a food addiction? What is an addiction? An attempt to solve a problem. I don't want to be in my head. I don't want to deal with this emunah stuff. I don't want to know. I just want to numb. That's not what we signed up for. So what happens when a person is numbing life, what happens? Not only does he not solve the problem, but he increases the problem and he buries the problem deeper and deeper down. Because our job in life is to transform the problem, not bury it down. So actually when a person is a shlamazel, that means he doesn't believe in himself. He's afraid to take risks. He's afraid to take on new things. He can't draw shefa down. I have to take responsibility. I have to man up. A person has to man up. He has to say, I'm going to be the provider. I'm going to take care of you. I have confidence and trust in himself. And then he merits to draw that. That's what he says here. Because he has to have a certain amount of authority. The word malchut represents, it's the last vessel in the 10 sefirot. It's called malchut. Malchut also represents kingship. Malchut also represents prayer. Malchut also represents emunah. In order for me to draw livelihood, or to draw shefa, or to draw any kind of, I must show the ability to be a provider. If you have a trust that you're a provider, God sends shefa through you. If you don't have the trust that you're going to be a provider, by numbing, everybody loves the pursuit of pleasure. They don't want to deal with pain today. The actual thing that a person's hiding is the thing that he needs to fix. So shlamazel means I'm lazy, I'm not taking accountable for my actions, I'm not taking responsibility, I'm blaming the whole world for my problems. That's a shlamazel. So if I have that mentality, why do you think I speak to people? I say, get up, stand up straight, go for the win, pretend you're going to win. Don't walk around like you got hit with a 300-pound bus every day. That's not showing malchus, that's opposite, that's showing defeat. Reb Nachman says, emunah starts by speaking victory. You have to speak victory. You have to believe that you're worthy. You have to believe that God will provide for you. What do we need to do? We need to show up and position ourselves to win. How do we do that? By taking responsibility and not having any fear and not numbing. So any kind of alcohol addictions, again, I don't want to talk about marijuana too much, but I see the lifestyle of marijuana. I see it in my rehab every day. You can tell me it's wonderful for you and everything, but most people are using it because they don't want to deal with pain. I'm not talking about medical marijuana where a person's in the hospital. I'm talking about 21-year-olds, 25-year-olds, 30-year-olds, 30 guys that are married that are smoking marijuana to handle the problems. Meditate. Don't use marijuana. Use that one better. But what are they doing? They're creating dinim because they're not allowing the emunah button to push. And they're just numbing life. And then they can't draw the shefa down. They can't draw the blessing down. Because the blessing has to go through a person that has malchus, that has authority. People who have a little bit of insensitivity. Again, and I own a drug and rehab facility. And I see the guys coming in with they're oversleeping all the time. Their friends are terrible. It's a terrible lifestyle. It's not the lifestyle that you want for a win. That's what I'm trying to say. I've yet to see a guy, look at this guy, no, it's a terrible lifestyle, God forbid. So again, this doesn't just involve marijuana, any food addictions. It's an attempt to solve a problem. And the only way you can solve a problem is by having faith. Any other attempt, but faith to solve a problem, it's not going to be good for you. Because you're not going to be able to stop. Therefore, when a husband grinds himself and takes responsibility for his wife, and obligates to provide for her. When he says, I got it, I'm going to take care of you, I have confidence, I believe in Hashem, as is stated in his marriage contract, I will cherish, I will honor, I will support, he is granted a measure of authority. He is granted malchut, which is this measure of authority. As it is written, he shall rule over you, and this is in Genesis. That authority is where he's able to draw parnasa down. So according to your trust in Hashem, according to your confidence, is the ability for you to draw and be successful. That's why confident people are usually successful. Why are they successful? Because they're able to draw down this malchut. That's what, as it says in the sages, we strengthen the strong and we quicken the quickened. And where does a malik usually attack people? It attacks people that are very weak. So it doesn't seem fair. How come this guy is struggling so much? He's getting attacked all the time because he's not in his right mission. He's supposed to believe in himself, and he's supposed to have koach, and he's supposed to believe that God will provide. But when he's not in his mission, what happens? He cuts the pipelines, and then what happens? From depression is where he gets the sustenance from. And again, I've seen this, and that's why I tell people, stop blaming your wife for over shopping, for doing this. Man up. Take responsibility for your actions. Don't show weakness. Okay, you're struggling temporarily, but don't say, it's going to be like this forever. What are you saying to somebody like that? You killed him. You killed him. And that itself will shrink the pipelines. And he says, now Malchut receives livelihood from the concept of wisdom. So now we know it's all connected. As it says here, all of them look to you with hope, and you provide for them at the right time. This is because everybody looks and hopes for livelihood, and then it goes into the Sphira of Malchut. So Malchut again represents prayer, it represents faith, it represents any kingship, it represents confidence, the ability that a person has to be able to draw from Hashem this vessel. Because again, we can have abundance of light, but we don't have a vessel because we don't believe. That's why people are usually stuck in the same problem, and they're thinking about the problems all over and over, right? The only way to get out of a problem is by having new thinking. If you have the same thinking, there's no way. Just like a guy that would be sick, and he would tell you, how can I get healed? I'm sick. How do we get that chemistry in his brain to change, to say I'm healing? You have to give him a medicine. You have to give him a pill. Then he thinks differently. Same thing here. We have to believe, you know what? I have emunah. I read it, listen to a class. That itself will take the action and will spur the malchut to come down. This is everything has to go. Remember, everything in the world has to go through the 10 sphirot. Has to go through the 10 sphirot of Kabbalah. This is Hashem's attributes, the last vessel. That's why the struggle today is so much. We speak about faith so much because people say, I have to see it to believe it. Those people never see it, and they'll never believe it because they're never going to see it. So when you believe it, you're going to see it. Why is it like that? Because the ultimate key in this world is to have free choice, etc. over prayers, over everything. We have to have free choice. When I exercise free choice, when I invoke emunah, I'm able to draw that pipeline down. So remember, be confident. Don't say, I can't get married because I'm afraid I'm not going to have any money. No, that's stopping you. Because guess what happens? Imagine if Hashem gave you tons of money. Then what would you do? You probably wouldn't get married. You probably say, I'm going to have plenty of fun. Why should I get married? Look at all this money I have. I don't need anything. You understand? It forces you that a person says, I have to have the second half of my soul, etc. Rav Nachman says in lesson 9, another thing connected to money and marriage. All of this is connected to money and marriage and relationships. So far it's emunah. Now we're going to talk about the concept of prayer. Rav Nachman says in lesson 9 that the essence of life force that a person has today is prayer. David HaMelech says, Ani tefilati. I am prayer. Pray. Why do we have to pray even though if God knows what's going to happen? Because through prayer we're able to change nature. And prayers actually will cause the vessel to create the vessel in order for the light to come down. This is why Rav Nachman is telling us here that according to the divine union that a person makes above, so he gets it below. We know that there's two things that our sages said that are as difficult as splitting the Red Sea. What are those two things? Parnasa and marriage and zivugim. These two things referred to as difficult. Until I didn't understand the thing about singles until I started getting into the singles market. I didn't realize it is as difficult as splitting the Red Sea. Why are those two things related to the Red Sea? What does the Red Sea represent? What was the key to splitting the Red Sea? Trust and prayer. Why? Because every single thing you need to make a zivug. What does he say here? That means to the extent that a person sustains his Father in heaven, he is sustained with prayer. Our job is to, anytime we have any kind of shortage, that's what Rav Nachman says. Rav Nachman's teaching that a way a person offers his prayer is directly determines the type of zivug you get. The quality of your prayer is the quality of zivug. You're not going to get a better zivug by going on a better website. That's not going to get you zivug. Just because you think that website's going to, let me get a better matchmaker. That's going to get me a better shidduch. Guess what? No. You have to make the effort. The person himself has to make the effort. Same thing in Parnasa. Anytime my Shalom Bayit is down or my Parnasa is down, right away, I know there's a defect in prayer. Right away, it's a defect in prayer. It's because the ultimate purpose of problems, what's the ultimate purpose of problems? Is just to get you closer to God. So you don't become arrogant and think you can control the whole thing. So what happens? When the Parnas is down and the Shalom Bayit is down, Rav Nachman says here, he says that your quality of prayer is determined exactly the quality of zivugim that are above. Because there's 12 patterns of prayer, there's 3 permutations of Hashem's name, Yud Kei Vav Kei, 3 times. So it's considered, that's why there's always 12 gates. So according to our quality of prayer is our quality of relationships and our quality of Parnasa. Because our sages said that difficulty is Red Sea, is compared to splitting of the Red Sea, it's the same thing as Zivugim and Parnasa. So that's why it forces a person. That's why many people ask me, what should I do for advice? What should I do? I'm struggling in business. Very simple. You need to have trust in God. You need to believe that you're going to succeed. You need to think better than you feel. And you need to crank up the prayer. Because what's happening is it's to wake you up. That's it. That's what he's saying here, clearly. So what is the key? We want to have kavanah. How do I have perfect prayer? I have to have my heart into it. Just my lips, being on the phone, thinking about business while I'm praying, that's not a way to make a zivug. That's not a way to make prayers. Zivugim are made strictly by quality and quality. But it's not the length of the prayer, it's the faith behind it. Remember, you can be praying ba 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 ba, but you don't believe it. So what happens? It's not the length of it, it's the faith behind the prayer that's going to ultimately work. So now we know. Any kind of problem that we have is sent to us from God only to rectify us. Because, and the ultimate way to have humility is through prayer. What happens is today we get caught up in the problem and not the purpose of the problem. We're getting too much caught in the problem. Look, I don't understand this business, I don't understand that business. We're focused too much on the problem. We're not focusing on what's the source. Why is Hashem doing this to me? He's getting me to change. He's getting me to change my actions. So again, by not honoring our wives, what are we doing? We're shrinking her soul. If we shrink her soul and we don't make them number one, then what happens? She can't bounce that light back to you. If she can't bounce that light back to you, then, and that's where the source of the blessing comes from, then we got a problem. Why? Because Rav Nachman said in lesson 69 that anger is the number one way to lose money. You want to find a way to lose money really quick? Just get angry. Why? Because anger also comes from the soul. All of these things are the left side of the Kabbalistic channel. You understand? So sometimes one breath could save me a business deal. How is one breath can save you a business deal? Because your breath is your neshama. Either I hold in the breath with patience, or I let out the breath with anger. Do you understand? One breath will take away. One breath it takes a person. And usually it happens, like we said before you have a major breakthrough, you're going to have chaos. Because the Satan sees that if a person's about to receive money, he's going to be tested with kas. He's going to be tested with anger. Because what happens is the other side sees that a guy is going to receive, and what happens? They want to block it. So what's going to happen? He's going to get tested with some stupidity. Maybe his wife will tell him something he doesn't like. And then he's going to all of a sudden get angry, and there you go, there's a whole vessel. There's the whole thing. So the woman's job is to be the right antenna. How could she be the right antenna? By focusing on what she has. By not getting distracted from the past. By also not worrying. The Gemara says an angry wife will destroy her house. So the woman has to lead. She has to be the right coach. Right? There's a time to be a cheerleader. There's a time to be a coach. When the guy's struggling, it's a time to be a cheerleader. When the guy's doing great, it's a time to be a coach. Tell him, by the way, don't think you have it all in your bag. Don't think you have it. Humble yourself before you get too cocky. Because if you continue like that, you're going to get a person's going to get, God forbid, in the other way. And how else are we going to be able to do this? By illuminating her soul, by making her number one. The first thing I could do is never compare my wife to my mother-in-law, God forbid, or to my mother, or to anybody else's wife. Oh, she cooks much better than you. You should take lessons. Now you're sleeping in the garage. You understand? You should take lessons. Anytime you use comparison, any kind of, even close, even by mistake, I didn't even say it, you're probably going to pay 7 years for that lie. And what is she going to tell you? You want dinner? Go to your friend's house. Correct? Right. And she's never going to forget it. But again, we also only want to say it one time. We don't want to say it 100 times. The guy gets it one time. You don't have to completely repeat it over and over again. So our job is to illuminate her soul by not giving her comments, making her number one, because I'm really honoring me. This is not so easy. It's nice talking while we're drinking water and calm. But when you're in the heat of the battle, it's not so easy as you think. So how do I win? Only by asking God for assistance in this. Because if you think you got it in the bag, guess what? I'm teaching these classes, and every single week I fail. Only when I pray and I know I need help with this, do I get. Anytime I think I have it in the bag, I'm good. You're gonna get blitzed, because the teachers don't get comfortable with these kind of things. So no comparison, no also putting fear into your house. Because if we can't put fear into our house, what happens? We can't draw from Malchut. And that's the ultimate kingship. That means God provides to us through the concept of kingship. I can't be a melech if I'm thinking like a peasant. Does that make sense? You got to act like a melech. You got to think like a melech. How do you become a melech? You have to have the moach, lev, and kaved. Think with your head, not with your emotions. What is the opposite of melech? It's a lemech. It's the opposite. Who is a lemech? A person who thinks first with his emotions, and then he thinks. That means he's screaming, he's getting nervous, and then he thinks. Then you become a melech, and you can't draw from the livelihood from malchut. So again, it's never a light problem. There's never a lack of light in Shemaim. There's plenty of light. There's so much abundance of light. But we ultimately have to make the proper vessels for it by doing what I told you. Self-confidence, self-control, and if you don't have it right now, you have to at least, like I said, at least start speaking emunah. The first thing Rav Nachman says, when a person, his emunah is down, and he has to first start speaking emunah, that's the beginning of it. He has to say, I'm going to succeed, I'm going to be calm, it's going to work out, I'm going to trust in God. That's the beginning. Don't get into a pattern of negative thinking. Okay? That's today's class. Give to poor people. Poor people's the best.